Hello everyone, this is Himdad A.Muhammad with you again in another lesson from the module Translation, Theory and Practice, and this will be lesson 9. In this lesson we are going to talk about how to translate sentences and what are the points and the aspects that we as translators need to take into consideration. So I'll talk about some tips and then some challenges and then some practice with translating sentences from English into Kurdish and from Kurdish into English. First of all, we have to know what do you mean by a sentence. A sentence is a group of words that give a complete thought or a complete meaning. So any group of words that gives a complete thought or meaning can be considered a complete thought, can be considered a sentence. But sentence structure changes from one language into another. For instance, if we take English as an example, it starts usually with a subject and then it is followed by a verb and then by complement. By complement we mean different types of objects and adjuncts and several other parts of speech that we don't need to talk about. We just call it complement. This is the typical English sentence structure. There are sentences that do not follow this structure, but this is the typical one. For example, imperative sentences do not have an explicit subject, for instance. In Kurdish, on the other hand, the subject is in most cases optional, and then there is complement, and then a verb comes at the end. That's the natural, usual, typical Kurdish sentence structure. If we take other examples, then the case might be different. For example, in Arabic, the verb comes at the beginning, usually in what we call verbal sentences or jumal al-fa'liya, but we just concentrate on English and Kurdish in our lessons because our examples would be mostly taken from Kurdish and English. Then, when you are asked as a translator to translate a sentence or even a group of sentences, what are the points or what are the aspects that you immediately think of, or what do you need to think of? Actually, there are many points to consider, but I capsulated it and summarized it into 5 main points, and I call them tips for translators when they are asked to translate a sentence or a group of sentences. The first important thing is the tense of the sentence. What is the tense? Is it present? Is it past? Is it present perfect? Is it past perfect? Is it continuous? What is the tense of the sentence? Because this will guide you for the translation in order to know how to formulate the sentence in the target language, because you cannot easily change the tense of the sentence, because if you change the tense, then you are changing the meaning of the sentence. The second point to consider is the type of sentence. What is that sentence type? And we know we have different types of sentences. We will come to talk about details in the coming slides. The third point is plurality and singularity, whether there are nouns, whether there are any items that are plural or singular, because this also will help you in order to rewrite the message in the target language. Number 4 is you have to consider and take into consideration whether there is a word in that sentence that has more than one meaning. Polysemous words, words that carry more than one meaning. This is very crucial, and sometimes translators make mistakes in this aspect. And the last point for today would be whether there are phrasal verbs or idiomatic expressions in this sentence. So, you know the tense of the sentence, you know the type of the sentence, you know whether there is plural or singular nouns and words in that sentence, and you know whether there is a word or a couple of words carry more than one meaning, and then phrasal verbs are there, idiomatic expressions are there or not. If you take these 5 into consideration and you know them, then this is a clear guide for you in order to start translating sentences. Now we are going to give each of these points some examples to make it more clear. So, about sentence type, or tense, sorry, about the tense of the sentence. It helps and it matters what is the tense of the source language text in order to transfer it to the same tense in the target language. For example, if you have a sentence like this, he works for the company. Works, we know, the tense is simple present. So our translation into the target language should be also this tense or equivalent tense if we don't have that tense in the target language. So, او بو کمپانیاکە کار دەکات. See, کار دەکات is simple present. He is working for the company since 2000. Is working, so this is continuous. أو لساڵی 2000 بۆ کۆمپانیاکە کار دەکات. کار دەکات, you remember, is exactly the same as the previous sentence, but that's how Kurdish language works. That's how Kurdish sentence structure works and tense is expressed. He worked for the company for 12 years. This is past. أو بۆ ماوەی 12 ساڵ بۆ کۆمپانیاکە کاری کرد. He has worked for the company for ages. For ages is an expression which means for a long time, but this is not our point here. Has worked. أو بۆ ماوەیەکی زۆر بۆ کۆمپانیاکە کاری کردووە. Kari kırdua is the perfect present perfect here in Kurdish. That's how it is expressed. See, so the tense of the sentence is very important in order to guide you, in order to help you in how to formulate your sentences in the target language. Without knowing the tense, you would be at risk of making mistakes at the translation process. The second point is type of sentence. Type of sentence or types of sentence, they can be classified differently based on the form, based on the content, but usually we have 3 classifications. We say simple, compound, complex. This is based on the form of the sentence. And then we can give some examples. He went to the party, a simple sentence. أو بۆ ئاهەنگەکە چوو. You remember? To is the verb that goes to the end, but that's very straightforward because it is a simple sentence. A compound sentence, I saw him while he was going to the party, could be translated in this way: من ئەوم بینی کاتێک بۆ ئاهەنگەکە دەچوو. And there is another option here that in compound sentences you have a full sentence and a partial sentence, so you can move the partial sentence even to the beginning of the sentence, or you can change it. That's why we say it is important to know what type of sentence it is. Say کاتێک بۆ ئاهەنگەکە دەچوو من ئەوم بینی. It makes no difference because it is a compound sentence. Complex sentence usually consists of 2 complete sentences combined by a conjunction. He went to the party and then he flew to London. He went to the party and then he flew to London. These are two sentences combined by and, but both sentences should have the same tense, so we have to be aware of the translation of the sentences. ئەو بۆ ئاهەنگەکە چوو پاشان بۆ لەندەن بە فڕۆکە گەشتی کرد. There is no word فڕۆکە in the English one, but the verb flew means flying, so he took the flight, or he took an aeroplane to London. See, knowing the type of sentence, whether it is simple, whether it is compound, whether it's complex, will also help you in translating the sentence in a good quality. You can also change the complex sentence by changing the place of the sentences and using some kind of transitional expressions or linking verbs or linking adverbs or expressions like then. For example, you can say pash away چوو بۆ ئاهەنگەکە اینجا بۆ لەندەن بە فڕۆکە گەشتی کرد. بە فڕۆکە بۆ لەندەن گەشتی کرد pash away چوو بۆ ئاهەنگەکە. You see how many different versions of the same sentence do we have? But that's after we know that it is a complex sentence. So each sentence has its own subject, has its own verb, and has its own complement, so that nothing is missed in this process. This is one classification of types of sentence, whether it is simple, compound, or complex. Another type of sentence could be negative, affirmative, interrogative, imperative, exclamatory. We have all these types of sentences, and it would be good for translators to know what is the type of that sentence that they are going to translate. They had an exam yesterday. ئەوان دوێنێ تاقیکردنەوەیەکیان هەبوو یان تاقیکردنەوەیەکیان ئەنجامدا. He rarely visits his friends. You see, in this sentence you don't see a negative particle not, but there is an adverb of manner, adverb of frequency, rarely, which denotes the negativity of this sentence. So we can say ئەو بەدەگمەن سەردانی هاوڕێکانی دەکات. ئەو بەدەگمەن سەردانی هاوڕێکانی دەکات. He doesn't ever blame others for his mistakes. He does not ever blame others for his mistakes. This is an explicitly negative sentence. But there is ever also, don't forget that word. ئەو هەرگیز لۆمەی کەسانی تر ناکا بۆ هەڵەکانی خۆی. ئەو هەرگیز لۆمەی کەسانی تر ناکا بۆ هەڵەکانی خۆی. You see the word هەرگیز, it is because of the word ever. And naka is because of the negative. Do you really want that? An interrogative sentence. Do you really want that? Aya is optional. تۆ بەڕاستی ئەوەت دەوێ؟ ئایا تۆ بەڕاستی ئەوەت دەوێ؟ What a nice shirt. This is an exclamatory sentence. کراسێکی چەند جوانە. What a nice shirt. But there is a note about exclamatory sentences, is that sometimes exclamatory sentences are used ironically, satirically, so they mean the opposite of what you say. If, for example, you hear this sentence, what a clever boy, with an exclamation, maybe depending on the context, the speaker means he is not clever. کوڕێکی چەند زیرەکە. چەند زیرەکی. It may mean the opposite, but it depends on the context. Who said it, to whom, and under what circumstances. This is what we mean by context. Get out of my sight. This is an imperative sentence, an order, a command. Get out of my sight. Winba labartao or labartao mwinba. Both versions are correct. So you see, it is very important to know what type of sentence are we dealing with as translators. Is it negative, affirmative, interrogative, exclamatory, or imperative? Because this will guide us to the right way of translating the sentences and conveying the intended message of the speaker. There are other types of sentence like passive and active, but because we talked about this in several occasions, on several occasions, that's why we are not going to go into details about that. So the other one is plural versus singular. When you get a sentence, you have to search for the words or items that are in plural form and that are in singular in order to know whether you need to keep this singularity or plurality or not, because languages also differ in what they express as plural or as singular. For example, when you say fruits are good for our health, fruits are good for our health, fruits is plural, and that's usual way of saying that sentence in English. In Kurdish, you can say miwakan, but the usual way you say miwa basuda botan durustima. You don't say it in plural form, even though you can say miwakan basudan botan durustima. But natural way of saying that is you use the singular form. Human beings are social creatures. Human beings are social creatures. See, beings and creatures. See how we can translate this sentence that contains two plural forms. Say Adamizat bunawariki komalayatiya. Adamizat bunawariki komalayatiya. It gives exactly the same meaning as the English sentence, even though it is expressed in singular form. Both Adamizat and Bunawar, both are singular, but they exactly give the same meaning. So it's not necessary to keep plurality as plural or singularity as singular in all languages. But as a translator, you have to take this into consideration. Dogs are loyal. Dogs are loyal. Sag bawafaya. Or even you can say sag bawafana. We must respect religious rituals of others. We must respect religious rituals of others. Emma pevista rez la rew rasmi ayini kasani ter bigrin. Emma pevista rez la rew rasmi ayini kasani ter bigrin. The other point that you need to consider is whether there is a polysemous word or not, a word that has more than one meaning in the same sentence or in that sentence, because this is problematic and this is challenging for a translator. And the only thing that helps is the surrounding word or the context of situation or the context in which that sentence is uttered. Look at this. He went to the bank. Just think for a while. Where did he go? Did he go to the bank in order to deposit some money or withdraw some money? Or did he go to the seashore or in order to relax? So both would be correct, but the context will decide. أو بو بانكتو يعني أو بو كنار درياتو. He is living in a good state. State with small s, state with capital S. But this is also a polysemous word. State has several meanings. But the translator should be clever enough and should be attentive enough to know that this word has several meanings and should be aware of the different meanings. أو لدوخێکی باش دەژی یان ئەو لە ویلایەتێکی باش دەژیت، لە وڵاتێکی باش دەژیت. Let's give one example in Kurdish also. پیاوەکە چاودێری منداڵەکان دەکات. پیاوەکە چاودێری منداڵەکان دەکات. Concentrate on the word چاودێری. How do you translate this into English? The man takes care of the children. The man takes care of the children. So chowdhury here is translated as takes care of. Takes care of. But in another sentence, the same word. Hawsaraka chowdhury dawseyakan dakat. Chowdhury here has a different meaning, even though it is the same word. But because the context is different and the surrounding words are different, then the meaning is different also. Here, chowdhury, it means to observe or to monitor. The spouse observes his or her neighbor. Chowdhury, here it means observes. There might be other words for chowdhury in English like surveillance, monitor and others, but observes would be enough for this case. So you see, it is very important for translators to look for words or items that might have different meanings. And the cleverness and the intelligence of the translator is to identify which meaning suits that context best. The last point to consider is whether there are phrasal verbs or idiomatic expressions in the sentence. Because what do you mean by phrasal verbs? It is a verb plus a particle, but the meaning of the verb is different when it is alone and when that particle is added to it. So it is a verb that consists of 2 or 3 parts. One of them is the verb, the other one is either a preposition or we call it a particle. But the meanings are totally different than the meaning of the verb alone. So we have to be careful about this case also. Look at these sentences. Just take a look. Just take a look. How do you translate look here? تنها سيرك بك. تنها سيرك بك. Would you kindly look at the screen? Would you kindly look at the screen? دتوانن سيري شاشك بك. Look at the screen. What are you looking for here? What are you looking for here? Looking for توليرا بدواي تيدا دقاري. بدواي دقاري. He looks after his siblings. He looks after his siblings. Looks after or look after means chowdhury daka. أو chowdhury خوشگوبراکانی دکا. يعني آگاهی لیان دبی. chowdhury بمعنای آگاه لیبون. She looks to her mother for support. She looks to her mother for support. Looks to as a phrasal verb. It means pishti pe dabaste. أو pishti badai ki dabaste bol par pishti karni. So you see, phrasal verbs are very important. Phrasal verbs are very crucial. We have to be aware as translators that phrasal verbs' meanings are different than the meaning of the verb alone. That's why in order to have a good quality of translation, we have to be aware of phrasal verbs, idiomatic expressions on the sentences that we are assigned to translate. So I hope by now it is clear that the message that I wanted to give you is when you are asked to translate a sentence, there are several things to take into consideration, but I summarized them in 5 points. What is the tense of the sentence? What is the type of the sentence? whether there are plural or singular items, whether there are polysemous words, words that have more than one meaning or not, and whether there are phrasal verbs or idiomatic expressions in these sentences. And all this will help you, will guide you as translators in order to have a better product of translation in the target language. And we should never forget the importance of context and the importance of sentential context also, and outside the sentence context. I mean, context of situation, or under what circumstances these sentences are said, they also affect meaning. Thank you very much for listening, and stay tuned for other videos.